Hello everyone, this is M. Milton Job. 5-day faculty development program is being organized by Sankara College of Science and Commerce from 24th May 2021 to 28th May 2021. On the fourth day, that is today, 27th May 2021, I have delivered a talk on the topic what is research, how to write a research paper, and how to publish a research paper in a good indexing journals like Web of Science, Scopus, and UGC Care List. The entire talk is uploaded in my official YouTube channel for the benefit of the research community. Kindly watch it, share the video with your friends and colleagues.
Very good morning to everyone present here. First of all, I would like to thank the management of Sankara College and the HOD Lingaraj sir and everyone who has given me this opportunity to act as a guest to share my knowledge in this particular FTP program. So in this particular session, so I would like to discuss with you certain three things. First is what is research, then how to write a research paper, and how to publish a research paper in a good indexed journals. So these are the three areas I have planned to cover, and I hope the time will permit me. So as far as the time permits, I will cover. So meanwhile, while I'm presenting, you can stop me at any time, and if you have any clarification, you may ask me. So first thing, let me start. So first thing, we will begin with what is research. So most of us these days are thinking that so doing research is very, very difficult, and it is not an easy one to carry out and complete the PhD program in a scheduled or in time. But actually it is not so. The PhD program is very easy if you understand what is research exactly. Of course, most of us have not learned what is research in our UG degree and what is research in our PG degree. So without knowing or learning anything about research, straight away after completing the PG degree, we are joining our PhD programming. So since we do not know anything about research, we find it difficult. And even the people who know about research, most of us are not ready to share or not ready to educate others what is research. So what happens finally, most of us are thinking that so research is very difficult and they give up. They give up doing research. And some of us take much effort and they learn it by themselves and they are achieving the PhD degree. And of course, you know few, those are having the money, they will outsource it, they will also get the degree. So now we should understand what is research. If we understand what is research exactly, it will be very easy for us to carry out our PhD program from the early stage itself. So what is research? It is a systematic investigation process in order to find new facts and conclusions. So this is the simple way to understand what is research. So research means it is a systematic investigation process in order to derive new facts and new conclusions. So still make you to understand better, the word research can be pronounced in two ways. One is research. We all normally pronounce research. The another one, the same word can be pronounced as research, right? So I just take the second one, research. So just think it, research. So research means, so we are going to research what have been researched already. So when we get into the PhD program, we first thing we should understand so many research works have been done so far. So many researchers have done so many research works so far. So what we have to do is, first thing, we have to research what have been done so far. This is the first step. To understand a research, we first think that we have to analyze or we have to study what have been done so far. So after analyzing these things, we will come to know so what other researchers have done so far and what are the drawbacks in it. So and what are the enhancement can be done in the particular area of research. So after knowing this only, we have to take a new direction or we have to go for the step ahead to start our research. So most of us are thinking after joining the PhD program, so our mindset goes that, so what I'm going to do, we all started to think about the proposed modeling that we are going to propose in our research work. So immediately after joining the PhD program or before joining the PhD program, if you start to think what I am going to do, so what is the proposed model I am going to propose? If we start to think like this, absolutely the PhD program will be a very tough one for us, because we have not analyzed what have been done by others so far. Without knowing what have been done so far, how can we derive a new fact or new conclusion? That's why I said in the beginning itself, research means it is a systematic investigation process in order to derive new facts and conclusions and inventions. The systematic process. So we have to analyze what have been done so far. Without analyzing the backwards, without understanding what have been done so far, so how can we do a new thing? For example, this is applicable for all the things, even in our day-to-day life, all the same. For example, if you want to make a biryani, first thing what we do. So these days we are going for YouTube channel and we are viewing so many videos how others have done biryani. So after understanding, so after listening and after making a systematic investigation of others, how they have done the biryani, and we are going to make our own biryani, which comes better. The same thing. The same thing is happening for research also. So when you plan to do a research, the first thing, so you have to analyze what have been done so far. Don't think about the proposed model in the initial stage itself. If you think about proposed modeling in the initial stage itself, means surely it will be going to a tough one. So we have to analyze what have been done so far. So after understanding these things, so we have to come to the next step, what we are going to do, because we have understood what others have done and what are the drawbacks are there and what are the enhancements we can do. We will come to know very well. After that, we can go ahead. So for example, everything is a systematic process. For example, now we have mobile phone, wireless mobile phone communication. So what are the backworks? Just think of it. The first stage, first generation of mobile phone, and we had a landline, we had a cordless and wireless within short radius, and after that only we have reached. It's a step-by process, step-by-step analysis. So after analyzing all these things only we can derive a new fact. So this is the thing about what is research. If we understand this thing first, we can do the research in a better manner. In the second part, now after that, after understanding what is research and after analyzing the backwards, the next step is we will be going ahead with writing a research paper. So we should understand how to write a research paper. If you know, so what are the things need to be present in a research paper, it will be easy for us. Most of us are struggling in writing a research paper. They do not know how to write a research paper. The simple reason is they do not know what should be represented or what should be presented in a research paper. So first thing, we should understand what is a research paper. So a research paper is a written document which consists of one's own idea or invention or contribution. Right? Please understand. So research paper means it is a written document which consists of one's own idea or invention or contribution. The further, the research paper consists of the various supporting materials or supporting documents to justify one's invention is better than the previous one. So this is the research paper. So now what are the things needs to be presented in a research paper, and we know how to organize a research paper very well. So I'll tell you, the first thing we know, title of a research paper, and if you take the second one, and it is a author details, and third one if you go you can find it abstract, and then introduction, and then literature survey, and proposed modeling, and simulation environment, and result and discussions, and conclusions, references, and author biography. So these are the things needs to be presented in a research paper. So the first thing, let us take title. So the title is the important parameter of a research paper. Right? So most of us are framing the title without representing the whole contribution of a idea. So the title is the important parameter. The title should summarize the entire contribution of a research paper, that what you have done in our research paper. right? So for example, you can do your research work in MANET or VANET or wireless sensor network or underwater sensor network, whatever it may be. So many of us, I have seen many research articles, they are writing the title like, for example, a novel protocol for enhancing the efficiency or enhance the network lifetime. So this title is seems to be general. The title should conclude where you are applying. Yes, in wireless sensor network or MANET or VANET. So these things should be presented very clearly because title plays a vital role in every research paper. So for example, so when someone comes for searching a paper, they will type, so network protocol in wireless sensor network or MANET or VANET. The important parameter, the important keyword is wireless sensor network, MANET or VAN. These keywords, based on these keywords only, our research article will be popped up and that will be displayed in Google or whatever it may be in other search engines, it will be displayed. So after going through the title only, once the reader is satisfied with the title, the reader will open the research article. So we should make the reader to open the research article by looking at the title. The title should be comprehensive, short and sweet, and which should represent the entire core contribution of the our research idea. And next thing, author details. So the author details, so I have seen so many research articles, especially from India, So we make a plenty of mistakes in representing the author details. The first thing you can find, they will add the prefix. For example, in a research title, they will add Dr. M. Milton Joe, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science, St. Jerome's College, Nagarkoil, Tamil Nadu, India. So this is the wrong way of representing the author details. So after the title, when we present or when we represent the author details, we are not supposed to add the prefix. You may be a doctor, you may be a Mr. or Mrs. whatever it may be. So don't add it. We have to just place the name. We have to just place the name. What is the, for example, M. Milton Joe. The name should be there. And next line, we are adding professor, assistant professor, associate professor. This designation of you also should not be added in the research paper. Our designation should not be added. So author name is there, department name, institution name, place name, state name, country name. So this is the thing should be presented in the research article. So for example, if you take any good research article from a reputed publisher, you cannot find these details. You cannot find the, even if you download a paper from IEEE, you cannot find a doctor, you cannot find associate professor, you cannot find, because that is not a standard way to represent the author details. But whereas in Indian journals, most of the journals you can find Dr. So and so, associate professor, whatever it may be, you can find these details. So this is not a standard way to represent the author details. Please understand, whenever you make a research article, follow these steps. So you now you may raise a question. So I have completed a doctorate degree. Then where I should I represent my degree, doctorate, doctor so and so, where I have to place? For that only, so after the references section, we have a special section called author's biography. So in the author's biography, you can add, you are a doctorate, you can add, so and so has completed the PhD degree from this particular university. You can add a doctorate and your designation, whether you are an assistant professor, associate, or professor, or your working experience, and etc. All these details you can add it in the author biography, not in the author details after the title. And next thing, abstract. So abstract is the heart of every research paper. Please be here. For every human, the heart is very important. Similarly, for every research article, the abstract is very, very important, because the abstract plays a vital role, because it makes the readers to decide whether to continue to read the research article or just skip it away. So whenever somebody takes a research paper, the first thing they will read the abstract of your research paper. Once the abstract is interesting and the reader finds sufficient information in the abstract, the reader will decide to read the manuscript completely. And in case if the abstract is poorly written and no contribution is there, simply the reader will skip the abstract and they will go ahead with the some other article. So if your abstract is interesting, your research article will get more visibility. First thing, it will get more visibility, and second thing, you will get, there is a chances of increasing the citations. So these are the possibilities are there when the abstract is written more effectively. So what are the details should be presented in the abstract, we should know. So as a being editor of in many journals, so I have seen many research articles, the abstract will not give any information. The abstract should summarize the entire contribution of the research paper. For example, I'll tell you in short and sweet what should be written in the abstract. The abstract first introduce the topic of your research in a short manner, not a paragraph, just 1 or 2 lines. It should introduce whether you are doing in wireless sensor network or MANET or VANET or whatever it may be. It should introduce the topic in a short manner. And after that, you should point out the challenges or limitations of the particular domain you have chosen. So what is the limitation is there? And after specifying the limitation, you have to find out what you have proposed to overcome the challenges. And finally, how your mechanism is advanced than the previous one. So keep it in mind, these are the things should be presented in the abstract. So you have to introduce the topic in a short manner, then you have to point out the limitations or challenges existing and how you have overcome those challenges and how your model is better than the previous one. So if you present these details, it will make the readers to read it better. It will create the interest. The reader will go ahead to read further. Your manuscript will be read by the reader fully. So most of us are, what they are doing is, they are not introducing the topic, they are not pointing out the any challenges, they are not also mentioning what they have proposed. So simply in the abstract they are writing, this paper proposes this particular protocol. So what the particular protocol will do and whether it is better than the previous one or not, no, it is not found. So this is the way to represent or to write the abstract. The next thing, introduction. So introduction is the major thing to introduce the topic of research. So for example, the introduction should introduce the topic of your research. The problem here is we do not know how to write the introduction. For example, tell you, so I am writing a paper in vehicular ADAS network. So I am enhancing a protocol. Just to assume that I am enhancing a protocol and I am writing a introduction. The introduction is written in general. Introduction is written in general, which means the particular introduction written by me is applicable for any paper in VANET. Just assume the introduction written by me can be utilized for any other research article written in vehicular ADAS network. This is the problem we are facing, especially most of us are writing the introduction like this only. The introduction is general and it is common for all the papers of the particular domain. No, this is not the way to write the introduction. The introduction that you write should be specific to the particular topic addressed in the research paper. So keep it in your mind. The introduction that you are specifying or that you are writing should be specific to the particular topic addressed in the research paper. So how to write the introduction? The first step, once again, you have to introduce the topic, right, in a deep manner. Deep manner means not too long. So compared with abstract, little bit should be deep. So you have to introduce your topic and what is the motivation of your research or what is the aim of research, why you are doing this particular research. So these details should be represented in the introduction. Now just think, so when you are introducing the topic, that may be common to all the domain, and where later you are coming to the point, the motivation of the research. So why, for example, why you are enhancing a protocol? So what was the drawback? So why you are enhancing? So the motivation is implemented there, the aim of the research is implemented there. Now the particular research introduction, the particular introduction is unique and it becomes only for the particular research paper. And at the end of the introduction section, we should give the organization of the paper. Most of us we don't give. So organization of the paper means section 2 describes so and so, section 3 describes this one, section 4, section 5, and section 8. So whatever it may be. So organization of the paper must be included at the end of the introduction section. The next section is literature survey or related work. So this is a very important thing, and of course most of us are not at all interested in writing this literature survey, because in order to write a literature survey we should go through the previous related articles. Previous related articles we have to study, so we have to read those papers, we have to understand what others have done. After understanding those things only we can write the related work section. So, but of course we find it very difficult and we don't have sufficient time to read others articles, so we don't read the articles. So simply we will be writing the related work section in a poor manner, so this will lead to rejection of the article. So I have seen many articles in the related work section, they have written in paper 8 authors have proposed anti-colony optimization algorithm, that's all, finished. In paper 18 this author has proposed this protocol, that's all. In paper 20, so the like this they are, we have started or we are writing the related work section, but actually this is not the way to write the related work section. The related work section makes your paper more concrete, right? So in the related work section you have to mention what others have done in a short manner. So what the previous researchers has done. For example, in paper 18, the authors have proposed a routing protocol for vehicular ad hoc networks. First thing. Second thing, and how it is implemented. So in order to develop those routing protocol, the author has done these things. And next, so what is the limitation of it? In this particular protocol, it takes too much of time. Time efficiency is high. One thing you can find out if there is a drawback. Another thing, it lacks of security. So attack is available. So these are the drawbacks are there. This drawback should be specified. What is the drawback available on the but in the previous research? You have to mention it in the related section. So this drawback is available in the particular research article, right? So and another paper you can take another article, this author has enhanced that protocol, so this authors have implemented using this methodology, this paper has this particular drawback. So this is the systematic way to write the related section. So at the end of related section, identify at the end of related section, so now you have written what others have done and what are the drawbacks existing there, you have mentioned in the letter section, and at the end you can come for the problem identification or problem formulation. So what is that? So now you have written, so what is related in the related section, you have written what are the what have been done and what are the drawbacks. You have identified the drawbacks. Now systematic investigation process is completed, and now you can go ahead with the problem identification, that is problem formulation. So you can specify, so these are the problems are existing in the previous models, so I have identified the problem, I have identified the challenges, I have identified the limitation. So in the proposed model I am going to solve this particular problem in my research paper. Now just to see how the research article will look. It will give the life to the research article and it will create interest to the readers to read it, and even the reviewers, those who are reviewing your paper, even you are submitting to IEEE, Springer or elsewhere, whatever it may be, it will make the reviewers satisfied and the possibility of acceptance ratio also will be high. So this is the way of writing the related work section. So once you have completed the related work section, now we are going for the proposed model. So which is very important, and which is very important, proposed modeling. And so in the proposed modeling, section 3, for example, section 3 proposed modeling. So most of us are writing the heading. Section 3 heading is proposed modeling. See, just to think, in the section 3, the heading is written as proposed modeling. So what have you proposed? This will make an impression like UG project or PG project, like existing system, proposed system. For example, if you have protocol, if you have made a protocol, specify it. In the section 3, in the heading, you specify it. For example, so proposed enhanced modified AODV protocol or whatever it may be. So do you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Is
Yes,
my
sir.
voice clear?
You are audible. You are audible, sir.
Okay,
Audible.
okay, fine. Okay, fine. Thank you.
Thank you,
Right.
sir.
So just understand the heading also should represent your article, what you have proposed, right? So in the title, you have in the proposed modeling title, specify what you have done, and inside the proposed modeling section, you have to clearly demonstrate your proposed modeling. If we are not aware of our proposed modeling, and if you do not know what we are doing, absolutely we cannot make it clear, right? The proposed modeling should give a comprehensive demonstration. So what you have proposed, right? What is your architecture modeling, and what is the algorithm you have used? So these things should be given very clearly. It should be clearly specified in our proposed modeling. So understand, most of us are making some mistake in writing the proposed modeling. What they are doing is simply they are combining the related section also in the proposed modeling. In the proposed modeling, they will be talking about so and so has done this thing, so and so has done thing. So that need not to be presented. So in the proposed modeling, you have to specify your idea. First, give the demonstration. So this protocol I have proposed. You can point out in the previous protocol, this is the problem is there. So I am proposing a new protocol, or I am enhancing a new protocol. You have to demonstrate it. And another major problem is, for example, I am going to enhance AODV protocol. Just think of it. I am enhancing AODV protocol. So if I am going to enhance AODV protocol, so if I am going to enhance AODV protocol, then I have to specify from what point I am enhancing the AODV protocol. But most of us are not representing these details in the manuscript. Simply they will be mentioning enhanced protocol, I am enhancing this. Now, in order to make it for better understanding, we have to specify from AODV protocol, in this particular, I am replacing the old algorithm and I am adding my new algorithm. It should be clear enough. So when the readers comes for reading, it give the comprehensive understanding. The reader should be able to understand. So from what point of view you are enhancing? So this thing should be specified. If these details are specified very clearly, it will create interest to the readers, and your proposed concept is also well demonstrated in your research article, and the research article will be good, and you will get high satisfaction after completing the research article. And specify and provide the diagrammatic representation in the article. Simply, I have seen many people simply theoretically they will write, and so many mathematical equations also will be there. You can find mathematical equations will be there, but they won't explain what about that particular mathematical equation. What is the use of it? If you don't explain the particular mathematical equation, why you have used, and what is the purpose, and how it is going to be utilized. If you don't explain the particular equation and what is the use of it, we have to explain it. So provide the architecture modeling diagram or provide a data flow diagram. So what is the use of these diagrams? So when we represent data flow diagram or architecture modeling diagram, it will make the readers to understand your concept much better. So some by reading they can understand it very well. Of course, they can understand it very well. So apart from that, so when you specify or when you give the data flow diagram or architecture modeling, it will make the readers to understand the concept much better. And you must specify the algorithm. So what is your proposed algorithm? And you should know how to write the algorithm. It's a very important. So algorithm should be written in algorithmic format. So most of us are doing step 1, start. Step 2, initialize the nodes. Step 3, send the message to the source node. Step 3, receive the acknowledgement. Step 4, data is communicated. Most of us are writing the algorithm like this, but this is not the way to write the algorithm. This is not algorithm. Instead of this, we can we can in the text we can explain. So algorithm should be written in a pseudocode format. So you can find it here. They are using symbols and equations. So how the algorithm is represented. You have to go ahead. You have to go through some previous articles to understand how they have written the algorithm for their particular topic. So after analyzing those things, you can very easily model your own algorithm, right? So this is the way how you have to present proposed modeling, because proposed modeling is very very important. So everyone will read your proposed modeling to understand how you have implemented and how you have presented, right? So once the proposed modeling section is over, and next step we are coming ahead with the implementation, how we are going to implement our mechanism, right? The simulation environment. So we need to present the simulation environment. So which tool you have used for implementation, right? For example,
Milton sir, sorry for the
yes,
interruption. Sir,
yes
are you
sir.
using PPT, sir?
No, no, I'm not using, sir. I'm not using.
Okay. Because some participants are posted some messages in text box. That's why I'm asking you, sir.
Oh, no,
Okay.
no
Please, sir.
problem, no problem.
Please proceed, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. So you have to specify the simulation environment. So what tool have we used for simulating or implementing your proposed work? For example, if you are using NS2, you have to specify you have used NS2, and version also you can specify, because it will be helpful to the next researcher who is developing their article based on your research paper. And what are the parameters you are using, right? What are the parameters you are using, right? For number of nodes you have used, and what are the energy used, and what is the protocol you have used. So all these things you need to specify in the simulation parameter, and which should be tabulated in a table. You can present it, right? So this is the simulation environment or simulation parameter. And the next step we are going ahead is results and discussion. So most of the mistake that we make is in this particular section, result and discussion. So the problem is we will present the results in the research article. We will present the result and we will leave the discussion. We won't discuss it. We present the result, but we don't discuss it. That's the problem. Results and discussion. So what we are doing is, so absolutely, we will provide a graph. So you should implement your work. You should get the data, and based on the data only you have to come for preparing the graph. You will be doing it. So in the research article, what they are doing is you are simply presenting the graph and you are writing the distance you have written. What you have written is, as shown in the graph, the proposed model has achieved better performance than the other protocols, etc., etc. You are writing. Very good. Just think of it. Is it necessary for these statements? The proposed model is working better than the previous models, because we can easily understand the proposed model is working better by looking at the graph. The graph specifies that the proposed model is working better than the previous models, because this is what you have presented in the graph. By looking at the graph itself, we can understand very well that the proposed model is working better. Then what is the use of writing 2 or 3 lines? The proposed model is working better. No use of it. So you have to write, I accept proposed model is working better. You have to write. In addition to that, you have to provide the discussion. A major point is what makes the proposed model to achieve better result. This thing should be specified after the graph in the results and discussion section. You have to specify, right? So in the proposed protocol, this is enhanced. This particular algorithm is replaced. This particular part is added. So this makes the proposed model to work better. So what makes the proposed protocol to work better, that should be specified in the results and discussion. So this is the way to write the results and discussion. And another one problem or mistake that I have identified in writing a research paper is, so we have to compare our proposed work, right? That's very, very important. We have to compare our research work. For example, so I am enhancing or I am modeling a protocol, latest protocol I am modeling. I will compare the research work with the old protocol like AODV, DSDV, DSR. I am comparing with the old protocol. So now just think it, what is the use of that related work section? We have literature survey. In the literature survey, we have mentioned this author has done this, this author has done. They also have implemented many protocols, right? They have many protocols. We have identified those protocols. It has limitations, and we are going for the proposed protocol. Then our proposed protocol should be compared with the protocols you have specified in the related work section. But what we do is we will compare our related work with the standard protocols AODV, DSDV, DSF. Of course, we can compare. I don't say that we should not compare it. We can compare it. But the recent protocols that you have specified in the related work section also should be compared with your results. Only then you can come to a concrete conclusion that your work is better than the previous one. So this is the way to write the results and discussions. And finally, so conclusion. So how to write a conclusion, and you know it very well. So conclusion is the summarized content of your four contributions, what you have proposed and how it is implemented and how it has achieved better performance. And finally, you can add future research directions. So the person who is reading your research article, at last they will get some idea what can be proposed next. That is called future research directions can be given. And finally, references. So in the references, we should understand one thing. We should study we should cite, and we should compare the recent research works in our article. So for example, most of us will do this like this only. In 2021, we are writing the research article. All our references will be less than 2000, right? To less than 2000 or less than 2010. So 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008, 2012, 2005. So like that, the old papers we are reading and we are adding it in the in the references section. But this is not the way to write the references section. In the references, we should study the recent research work. For example, last 2 years or 3 years work we have to analyze. We have to, based on that only, we have to write literature survey and propose modeling our result and discussion. The work that we study should be a recent one. It should not be a very old one. If it is too old, so what happens? The many other researchers, they might have overcome the problem which is already existing in that particular in the particular paper, right? And then another question you may raise: can I add old reference? Then should I not use any old references? No, absolutely, it is not so. You can add even the references from the year 1995 also you can add, or 1967 also you can add. So if it is necessarily needed for our topic and it is relevant to the concept, you can add it. But justification of our work can be based on the recent research works. For example, I am telling you. So if you have added 30 references, so your paper consists of 30 references, and just assume among the 30, so among the 13 references, just you are doing, for example, your 15 or 16 references are very old. Just 3 to 4 references new means there is no use, right? So majority of references try to add recent research works. The previous research works also you can add it. There is no issue, right? For example, 10 to 15 references or 10 references, maybe a back one, and 20 references latest one. So whenever you study the recent research works, your knowledge will be enhanced. And for reviewer point of view also, it will give good impression that you have done good literature review of the recent research works. Right. And another thing you may have, whether I have to include a foreign research article, foreign references or Indian references, or what kind of references should I add? Actually, in my point of view, there is nothing like that. There is nothing like it. You can add only foreign references, only Indian references. Not like that. The thing is, the references that you are taking, the research article that you are taking should be relevant to your study. For example, you can find somebody is doing the research article in the network environment, but they will add the references paper from the image processing or data mining just for the point of view of increasing the citations. No, this is totally irrelevant. So foreign references or Indian references, there is no like that category. It can be categorized like quality of article. If your article is quality one, if it has the good content, good merit it has, means people will be using your paper as a references, right? So many Indian articles are not cited so far. Many foreign articles also not cited so far, because the content is very, very important. The quality of content you have implemented plays a vital role here. For example, you have published a paper in SCAE, let's assume, or whatever it may be, the greatest indexing. You have published a paper. For example, if the paper has a scientific flaw, this paper has a demerits, mean nobody will using it. We will not get citations, right? So most of us are thinking that. So most of us are thinking that, and so sorry for the interruption. I understand that you have a few questions. So at the end of this session, please raise the question. So while I am presenting, so many people are texting over here. So I do not know whether I have to read it or I have to present it. So I have a little bit confusion. So at the end, we will have a discussion, right? So the quality plays a vital role, and finally it comes to the author biography. In the author biography, as I told you earlier, so you can go ahead with so many of information related to you. So you have where you have graduated, where you have studied, how many teaching experience you have, how many years of research experience you have, and how many articles you have published, and what are your achievements you can provide it in the author biography section. So this is the thing, how to write a research paper. So far I have discussed with you. So what is research and how to write a research paper. I hope I have given you some input. So I have shared my knowledge only over here. So I do not know whether what I have shared. You may have a different perception from my point of view. I have shared my point of view. I hope it may be useful to you. So now let us have a small break for clarification. Now in this session, first part almost I have completed, and if you have any clarification, you may ask me and we will discuss it and we will go ahead with the next session. Thank you. Now you can clarify your doubts. Right, I find a question over here regarding plagiarism. So authors are facing plagiarism issues. So first thing is to understand what is plagiarism. So plagiarism means we are using other researchers' work as it is and not giving any credit to the authors. So first thing, if we go for cut and paste, we will be getting the plagiarism, right? So we will be getting the plagiarism issue. We will be getting. So first thing we have to understand, we have to read others' research articles, and we have to represent those contents in our research article in our own words. In our own words. So yeah, in our own words, we have to represent it. If, for example, if you are reading another person's research article and if you write it as it is, it will lead to plagiarism. You have to rewrite it by your one. For example, let us assume we have to write a short note about Taj Mahal. Example, about Taj Mahal. When I write about Taj Mahal, it will be different. When you write about Taj Mahal, it will be different. when somebody else writes about Taj Mahal, the entire content will be different. There is no plagiarism issue. So when you look at others and when you write, when you represent the same things, the plagiarism issue occurs. Alright. So in order to avoid plagiarism, you can go through other research articles, and when you are writing it in your research paper means you have to represent it in your own words. Right. So and another thing, another persons have pointed out, and how to check plagiarism and what is the plagiarism tool can we use it. So this is the important thing, and most of us are using free plagiarism detection software which is available in internet. There are many you can find it. So first of all understand, so when my suggestion is never and ever don't use the free plagiarism detection software. Don't use it. Right? When you use free plagiarism detection software, your content, your research article may be lost. We do not know who is there. They may take your article, and later stage before you publish your article, somebody will publish the same article with their names. The possibilities are there. There is a possibility of stealing your research article. So my suggestion is don't check for plagiarism in the free software. Alright. So get the help from your friend who is having knowledge or who is having access in the plagiarism software. Use it. So what is the best plagiarism software you are means that there are two things. So one is Turnitin. You might have heard about it, Turnitin, and we have another software called Authenticate. So these are the two major plagiarism detection software widely used throughout the world I am talking about, right? So these two softwares, Authenticate and Turnitin, so both are have a same organization, right? So Turnitin, 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 right? So if you type in Turnitin, it will come first in the Google and Authenticate. So both consist of the same organization, right? The Turnitin and Authenticate of same organization. So then what is the difference between these two things? We have to understand. So Authenticate, if you take Authenticate, the Authenticate software is specially designed for journal publications. The Authenticate software is defined. The Turnitin is mainly used for universities, right? I will just make it more clear. So when you go for Authenticate software for checking plagiarism, it will check all the internet content. It will check. It will check all the publisher databases, all the journal websites. It will check. All right. This is for Authenticate. So when you go for Turnitin, the Turnitin will check all the things what is done by Authenticate. In addition to that, Turnitin will also check your content with the university databases. Of course, here we don't make university databases. When you go for foreign countries, so all the countries they have university database, and where their UG project, PG project, all the things will be available in the university database. The Turnitin will check for all those things. University database also it will check. So what is the best to use? In my opinion, we can very well go for Turnitin because Turnitin gives the better result because it uses university databases also. Right, Turnitin is the best one, and we know that most of the universities are using Urkund. They are using, right? Urkund they are using. That may be for different reasons. There are many reasons, but compared with Urkund, this is Turnitin is always best. So recently there is a issue came about plagiarism issue arised in UGC. So you can find it also in the UGC website. UGC has mentioned very clearly that plagiarism should be checked using Turnitin software. It is mentioned in the UGC Gazetted notice. You can find it. Turnitin should be used. Turnitin should be used, and I hope you all know aware it. They have specified how many plagiarism is allowed. If a paper has 40% of plagiarism, your degree will be rejected, and the particular guide is terminated for guiding the students for 5 years. I think so. The categories there: 40%, 30%, 20, or less than 20, You will be given the permission to rewrite and resubmit it, thesis. These are the things available. You can find it in the UGC website. So in my opinion, Turnitin is the best, and you can also use it Turnitin. So any other question? Yes. Here I find another question regarding publication. So what is that cloned journal? So many scholars have published the paper in cloned journal. What shall we do? The first thing, it is a mistake of the author, mistake of the researcher. As a researcher or as a research scholar, when you are going to publish your research paper, you should be able to identify. You should be able to identify the genuinity of the particular journal. You should be able to identify the genuinity of the journal. If you are not able to identify the genuinity of the journal, and if you do not know how to select, how to choose the journal, just think about the future. After completing your degree, you will get the guideship and how you are going to guide your students. So while you are doing your research, you should get the sufficient knowledge. You should search, you should analyze, you should identify all these things. You should identify. So, right. So cloned journals. So how to identify cloned journals? It is very easy. It is very easy to identify the cloned journals. Right. For example, what they will claim, we are indexed in SCA database. We are indexed in Scopus database. So you can very well check the particular journal genuinity in the Web of Science database and Scopus database. So when you search, you can find it, whether the particular journal is genuinity or not. So if you go for Web of Science database or if you go for Scopus database, they have given the link of the particular website. Journal website link is available. If it is an online journal, journal link is available in the Web of Science database and Scopus database. Just if you click it, it will take you to the right website. You can identify it very easily, and you can very easily identify the best journal. And another major things, I hope most of you are from a computer science background, so you can easily identify the history of the domain of the particular journal. For example, a journal claims, a cloned journal claims to be a Web of Science indexed journal, and they will specify the publication history from 2008. They have a domain. For example, www.journal.com. That's a domain. Just copy the domain, and you can Google it. Right? Who is the domain? Who is lookup? Who is checkup? You can find it in Google. Just you give the domain, it will give the history when this particular domain was created. Right? How long the domain is running? So the journal claims, just to understand, the journal claims the journal was started in the year of 2008, but the journal website is created in the year of 2020. How is it possible? So it is the first sign we can identify that it is a cloned journal. Somebody has created a website in the 2020, and they have created a cloned website for taking up of the money. Right, this is the first way you can very well identify. And another way, if you are not able to identify this who is look checkup, you can just in the journal website itself, you can find the history archives. You can find every journal will have a archives page, which means history. From, if for example, the journal claims it is functioning from the year 2008, then in the archives page you should find the articles which are published from the year 2008 to 2021. Up to this, all the articles should be available in the journal website. But in the cloned website, you can find, if the website is started in the year 2020 articles alone will be there. 2019 articles alone will be there. The back articles will not be available in their particular journal website. Here you have to raise a question, why those articles are missing? Because it is a cloned journal. And another one thing, in a cleverly manner, they are specifying 2020 articles available. You can download it, you can read it. They will give a link for back article, back issue article. Click it. If you click it, it will ask for username and password. The back articles you cannot view it. It is locked with username and password. Why it is locked with username and password? Because the journal has no papers. That's the reason. They have no papers. So journal is open access. Open access journal. Open access journal means all the articles should be available freely to download. Why they are blocking previous year article? That means they don't have the article, so that only they are displaying like that. So regarding these things, just you can follow me in YouTube. In YouTube, just if you type my name Milton Joe, you will find my YouTube page. There I have specified about cloned channels, how to identify fake websites. All things I have available. When you have time, you can go through it. And if you another one question I found over here. So what is the plagiarism rate accepted by the journals? So in international standard level, the accepted level of plagiarism should be less than 20%. Yeah, okay. The less than 20% is the standard way. International level it is accepted, but it may vary depending upon the journal. But the more credibility journals or more prestigious journals or more long history of journals, they may expect the plagiarism level of article should be less than 10. So my suggestion is, if you are able to keep the plagiarism percentage less than 10, it will be well and good. All right. And another question I found over here, so how long duration it will take for publishing a research article in SCI journal? So please understand, we cannot predict the time duration. If you have good luck, you may get it in 4 months. If you have bad luck, you may get it for 2 years or 1 year, 1.5 years. It will take time. That depends upon the availability of the editor, availability of the reviewer. It is available, right? For example, even my scholar has submitted a paper. To a journal. Almost 1.5 years about to over. 1.5 years about to over. Just 2 months are remaining to complete 1.5 years. Still the paper is not yet admitted into the review process. Still the review process is not yet begun. So depending upon the journal, so why this time duration exceeds that? Because of the number of submissions received by the particular journal. For example, if a journal has huge number of articles, journal receives huge number of articles, means they may not be able to identify the researchers. Sorry, they may not be identify the editors and the reviewers. They are not able to make the peer review process. Hence, automatically it takes time for publishing or for giving the decision to you in the right manner. It will vary. The time may be vary from 4 months to 1 year or 1.5 year, depending upon the journal. And I found another question regarding special issue. So what is the difference between special issue and a regular issue? So my answer, simple answer is, regular issue is in the hand of journal core committee. So when you go for special issue, the special issue is in the hand of guest editors. Of course, the journal core committee also will be there. The journal core committee also will be there. In special issue, publishing a research article will be much easier than the regular issue. And I do not want to share most of the things over here, and you know it very well. Getting paper published in special is very easy, because there are so many persons are there to help you to get published in those kind of special issue. But in my opinion, special issue you can publish it, not an issue. For example, if you publish your paper in SCI indexed journal as a special issue, your paper will be considered as a special issue. Sorry, as a SCI indexed. Even if it is Scopus, it will be considered as a Scopus indexed journal. There is no issue. At all. But regular issue will be much better than the others. And few universities, I think Anna University, they don't accept special issue publication. They are accepting only regular. They are accepting only regular issue. Right. So another question here, people are asking about a journal, about what is under investigation. This is one question, and another one question: why few journals are publishing 500 articles or 600 articles in a single issue? The reason is very simple. The reason is the journal is going to be out of Scopus or Web of Science. This is the simple reason. So one thing you have to understand. So Scopus, for example, if you take Scopus team, advisory committee team, they have a certain criteria to maintain the quality. So every journal to must pass through these criteria to get accepted into Scopus database. Even after getting indexed in Scopus database, those journals must follow the good publishing practices, good research ethics, and all the criteria determined by Scopus should be followed. So what happens here? So many journals, especially from India, you find it very well. You find it very well. So in order to get money, they will be publishing huge number of articles. The huge number of article means per issue you can find minimum 100 articles to 1000 articles you can find in article. And we also very much interested because our paper will be accepted very easily. We pay the money and we also publish our research article. But it is a wrong practice. Understand, when a paper started to publish huge number of articles, it is the first sign that the particular journal is going to be removed from Scopus or Web of Science. Whatever it may be, whatever may be the database, it is going to be removed. So every journal should keep a peer review record. Peer review process should be maintained for all the articles submitted to the journal. And you know, if you have published in those kind of journals, if you have published in those kind of journals, you all have experience. Your paper will be accepted within 2 days, 3 days, or even 10 days. Without any comments, direct acceptance. You might have find direct acceptance. They will specify your paper is so good, very nice. Just to pay the money, they will publish it. Right? The peer review is very, very important. Very, very important. Right? So you should get the peer review information. Comments you should receive. When you don't get the comments within 2 to 3 days or 5 days or even within 10 days, if you get the acceptance, means the journal is not making the peer review process and they are publishing the huge number of articles. That means the journal is going to be removed from Scopus. So you have to be very careful in publishing your article in that particular journal, because after publishing your paper, particular journal may be marked as investigation. Somebody also asked a question, what about under investigation? The Scopus will mark this at under investigation. That means under investigation means the journal's Scopus indexing is stopped. That's the reason. Scopus has stopped its indexing and it is sent for evaluation process. Scopus will evaluate those journals. And of course, you know that those journals 100% will be removed from Scopus. Right? So when a journal is pointed out as under investigation, the publishing the paper in that particular indexing in the Scopus database is very, very difficult. Right? My suggestion is, for example, I'm telling you, in open access journal, it has the publication fee, right? So you are paying 15,000 or 20,000 to publish your research article in a poor journal, which is going to be removed from Scopus, and your paper is also not indexed. When your paper is not indexed by Scopus, then that publication is not Scopus indexed publication. It is a normal publication. It is a normal publication, right? You are wasting your money. Instead of that, even you can find another quality of journal which has 10,000 or 15,000. So there are many good journals are there. They will keep the peer review process and quality of articles will be published. So you should be clear in choosing the journal. So don't expect for fast publication. Instead of expect for quality publication. But just assume if you have published in those kind of journals, which is publishing 500, 600 papers. So when you tell somebody I have published my paper in this particular journal, you will not get any happiness, right? Immediately they will say those journals, anybody submit the paper, they will accept it. So publish a paper in a quality journal. So under investigation means the indexing of the particular journal is stopped, and the journal which publishes huge number of articles will be removed from Scopus shortly. And another one, aim and scope of the journal is very, very important. You can find some journals aim and scope will be biology, right? The journal's aim and scope will be biology, but they will be publishing the research article in computer science, engineering, mechanical engineering, civil engineering, whatever it may be. Anybody can publish it. This is the another sign that a particular journal is to be removed from Scopus. So every journal has a aim and scope. When a journal violates this aim and scope, and when they go ahead of all publishing all the research articles, the particular journal will be removed. So you have to be very careful, and you should be keen enough in choosing a journal for publication. Right. So any other questions? So why Indian Scopus indexed journals are removed from Scopus? Another question: why Indian journals are removed? The reason is Indians are not maintaining research practice, research ethics in order to make money. They are publishing the huge number of articles. They are not making the peer review process, and these are the various drawbacks existing. So Scopus is simply removing it. Any other questions? So another question somebody has asked: can I submit the paper simultaneously to more journals? So the answer is it is a wrong practice. It is not a research ethics. You are not supposed to submit the paper simultaneously to more journals. Of course, you may have a question. No, I am submitting a paper to a journal. It takes 1 year or 1.5 years, and finally they are rejecting the paper, and my duration is wasted. And after 1 year, when I submit the paper to the another journal, they will claim that this concept is old. Again, I am getting rejection. Then how can I publish the paper? You may have the question. So the good research practice is you should submit the journal to the one journal. You are not supposed to simultaneously submit it to more journals, and the rest of the decision is I give it in your hand. You have to take the decision, because I cannot say. That's your wish, but according to the correct and right research practice, you are not supposed to submit the paper in two different journals. So right. So another question here I found: UGC CARE list journals. Please don't mistake me. Few of you are also sending another questions simultaneously in my window. I'm getting 2 or 3 questions. So I cannot read all the questions. I read few. I answer it. Even if I do not answer your question, please kindly excuse me and you can re-ask the question. So ask about UGC CARE journals. So first thing, UGC CARE journals consist of two categories. One is group 1 and another one is group 2. First I will explain you what is group 2. So group 2 means group 2 consists of internationally recognized databases. For example, Web of Science. The journals which are indexed in Web of Science. So here I have to make you one thing clear. So Web of Science means, so don't get confused, right? So Web of Science, it is a general name. Just assume that, for example, just assume that if you take a college, any college, for example, if you take Sankara College, it consists of various streams. Science stream will be there, arts stream will be there, or BSc, BCom, what various sections are there. So through all collective we call the name Sankara. Similarly, Web of Science is a platform and it is a general, right? Just understand, Web of Science is a general. Under Web of Science, there are many indexing databases available. Make sure under Web of Science, many indexing databases available. So first thing we will call it as Web of Science core collection. So Web of Science core collection. Web of Science core collection consists of SCIE, Science Citation Index Expanded. This is for science journals, right? Another we have SSCI, Social Science Citation Index. This is for social science subjects. And another one we have AHCI, Arts and Humanities Citation Index, and this is for only arts and humanities. And fourth we have ESCI, Emerging Sources Citation Index. So these are the 4 things will come under Web of Science core collection: SCIE, SSCI, AHCI, and ESCI. So first thing I'll tell you about this SCIE. SCIE, Science Citation Index Expanded. It will have an impact factor. SSCA, it also has impact factor. AHCA, it also has impact factor. And ESCA is a preliminary stage of getting into Web of Science. ESCA has no impact factor. It consists of all the disciplines journals come to the category ESCA. From ESCA, once the journal has high impact, that particular journal will be moved to, if it is a science journal, that will be moved to SCIE. If it is social science, it will be moved to SSCA. Arts and humanities, it will move to AHCA, right? So what you have to keep in your mind is, you should aim to publish the research article in these three categories. If you are from science subject, SCIE, social science, SSCI, arts and humanities citation index for arts and humanities subject, right? So now come to UGC CARE list. UGC also considers only these three databases, that is SCIE, SSCI, AHCI. If you publish your research article in this category, it will be considered as UGC CARE list group 2 publication, right? And you can find in the marketing, you can find many people will implement, they will say Web of Science indexed journal, publish your article, Web of Science indexed journal. So when somebody says Web of Science indexed journal, means you should be able to verify in Web of Science which database the particular journal is indexed. I told you, no, the core collection, these three databases, it has the value, more value. It has the more value. In addition to that, Web of Science has other platform. You can find it Web of Science platform. It has other databases in Web of Science like Zoological Record, Biosis Preview, and Arabic Citation Index, etc. Around 10 to 11 databases available in Web of Science. So when a journal points out Web of Science, you should ask a question in Web of Science which database the particular journal is indexed. If the journal is indexed in Zoological Record, UGC will not consider it and it will not bring you any credit, right? You should be able to identify in which particular database the particular journal is indexed. It should be indexed in these three categories, right? And another one here, people are pointing out SCI journal. Please make sure there is no SCI journal, SCI, Science Citation Index. There is no SCI category in Web of Science, right? So make it very clear. In Web of Science, we have SCIE, Science Citation Index Expanded. There is no SCI category. A Science Citation Index. This SCI category is removed from Web of Science. I think around 2 years or 2.5 years back, I think. So I'm not sure, or maybe only, I think 2 years back it is removed. Earlier we had SCI category, right? The journals which are functioning or which is getting more high impact from SCIE is categorized, and they framed another category called SCI, Science Citation Index. That is, SCI is extracted from SCIE. So now Web of Science has combined. There is no SCI category. We have only SCIE category only. So we have. And here I found here another question. Here I found another question. People are asking, please tell me some SCI indexed journals for publication. So journal name I cannot point out here because there are many, plenty. You can go for IEEE, Springer, Elsevier, Wiley, Taylor and Francis. There are plenty. So I cannot point out the name over here because it will take time. I have to prepare a big list, right? So what I suggest is, as I told you earlier, just type my name in the YouTube. You will find my YouTube channel, and there is a video is available how to identify best channel for SCIE Scopus publication. If you watch that video, it will guide you how to identify a suitable journal for publication, right? Because also the time is also running, so we have to go ahead. And here I found another question they have asked. So what should I do if my citation is missed? Simple, we can do nothing. So understand, when your citation is missed in Google Scholar, actually we cannot do anything because I think in the previous lockdown, suddenly I lost 30 citations from Google Scholar. I lost 30 citations, 30 citations I lost. I tried to regain, but I could not. Because it is an automatic process. Google algorithm, it's an automatic process. Automatically, based on the research references, it includes the citations, and it also decreases. I do not know why. But in case of Scopus, when your citation is missed in Scopus, you can directly contact Scopus by specifying my article is cited by this particular article, but it is not counted in my citation. You can very well contact Scopus. They will add your citation. But as per my knowledge goes, most probably it is not possible to miss the citation in Scopus because it is working properly, because people are working, it is doing good. But in case if you miss it, you can contact very well. You can very well contact Scopus team. And regarding so one more thing, I forgot to tell you in the particular relevant session. So we were talking about the journal which publishes huge number of articles, right, in Scopus indexed journals, right? And one more thing, be careful. Nowadays, Scopus is very strict, and I hope you know it very well. Scopus has started to remove the article from the Scopus database from this kind of channels, right? The channels which misbehaved, the channels which published huge number of articles, The articles also indexed by Scopus, but after 3 months or 6 months, the indexed articles also removed. For example, if you publish in those articles, your paper may be get indexed in Scopus, but if Scopus finds it is a removed journal and it is not reliable for Scopus, they may remove your paper also. And I hope you are all aware of it. Recently, very, I think last week or around 10 days back, 2000 papers are removed from a journal from Scopus database. Around 2000 paper. I am not sure exact counting, but I think it will come around 1500 to 2000 papers are removed from Scopus database last week. So all the papers were indexed by Scopus, but it is removed because the journal has did not follow the research ethics, so it is removed. So you have to be very careful in choosing your journal for publication. So any other clarification? So I hope I have made you clear. I have tried my level best to educate you. I hope it is useful, and I think it is useful. My humble request is knowledge should be shared with one another. So what I know, I have shared. Similarly, you also share the things, educate your colleagues. It will be it will be useful to one, right? So I want to share one thing in Tamil. So when I did my undergraduation in St. Joseph's College, one of the motto of the particular college is Manidam Vali Kalvi Malarga. Right? We should enhance others. We should educate others. So I know these things. If I tell these things to another one, that particular person will be knowledgeable than me. I should keep it with myself. Please don't think that. Share the knowledge with one another.